Okay, so I'm going to go over some notes and stuff with you today. You're going to have 3 papers that this video is going to go over. The describing shape of data video, there's a student activity over shape of data, and an interpreting data. I know, lots of data. Okay? Alright, so I know this is a little blurry on mine, but you can see it. Now there's going to be some words here that we're going to go over, and then I'm going to make you star at the very end, the ones that I think are most important, that I really want you to worry about. So if a couple of them might be a little confusing, but don't stress, okay? I'm gonna only really want you to know some major ones, okay? So, I kind of think it's funny when you're talking about having the shape of data, but when you think about it in terms of graphs, we can kind of look at a shape of a graph. And pretty much what you're looking at is it symmetrical or not? Now, back in elementary school, you talked about symmetry, and how symmetry means if you divide something in half, it's the same on both sides, okay, like a butterfly. Okay, if you divide it in half, its wings on each side match each other. Okay, so that's kind of with a graph. So for symmetrical graphs, if you were to draw an imaginary line down the middle, so like on these dot graphs, okay, what I kind of like to do is draw what's called a best fit line. That's what that little arch is for. Is it pretty much the same on both sides? Okay. Now, same thing here. This is U-shaped, of course, but if we drew an imaginary line there, it's pretty much the same on both sides. Okay, so that's what symmetrical means, that you can divide it in half and it's pretty much a mirror image. Okay? Alright, a peak is pretty simple too. A peak of a mountain is the top of a mountain. So a peak is a high point in the data, so it's pretty much the biggest one. So here your peak would be 2 because it is the tallest. So yes, sometimes you can have more than one peak, just like you can with mode, but the peak is the highest. A cluster, I'm not too worried about cluster, but it's when a lot of your data is all in the same spot. Okay, that you have a lot, but there's like a cluster where there's the most. Okay, I don't know why Miss Cockrell's name is popping up on my video, y'all. I just realized it was there. Let's see. See, oh, that's weird. Let me fix it, maybe. There we go. Okay. Alright, let me zoom back in a little bit. Okay, so, got that going. Sorry, Miss Cockrell. Alright, the next word is skewed. And this one's sometimes hard because it's a new word, but it's a weird word, so maybe we can remember it. Skewed means that your data is all kind of pushed to one side. So like here, it's pushed to this one side. So if we were to draw like a best fit line over this, you'd kind of have a tail, okay? So a slope. Alright, and it can be pushed to one side or the other. Alright, sometimes you'll hear them say like this would be skewed left because it's pushed to the left. But I'm not worried about that, okay? So skewed just means it's all pushed to one side. Alright, uniform data is data that has no clear peaks and it's pretty much the same all the way across. Okay, so that's uniform. Pretty much the same all the way across. Equally spread out. Alright? And then, of course, we have asymmetrical, which is not symmetrical. Okay? And that's kind of where I'm going to show you in just a minute. This means it's not. So if I try to draw an imaginary line down the middle of this, they're not the same on both sides. Okay? So the main two that I'm really worried about you knowing, big stars besides symmetrical and asymmetrical. Okay, I think you'll be okay with peak as well, but those are kind of the big for shape. Is it symmetrical or is it not? Okay, so that's kind of the ones I really want you to know. We're still going to talk about the others, but those are the ones I really want you to know. Okay, now there's a couple of other things we can throw in there, and one of those is a little more important than the other. We can have a gap, which means a place where there's not any data. We saw that on that histogram the other day where there was not a bar. And then the one that's really important is an outlier. And we looked at an outlier on a homework. I just didn't call it really an outlier yet. Outlier is an extreme value, so something that's way far off from the others in the set. So here's most of our data. The outlier is way out there by itself. So if you remember the homework we did a while back when we were doing mean, median, mode, and range, there was a homework that the person had made a 0 on a test. And it made us find the average with the 0 and find the average without the 0. Well, that 0 was an outlier. And so if you have all of these grades that are up in the 80s and 90s and you make that 0, which is way far away, that can really affect your average. So sometimes when you have data, they'll say ignore the outliers or something like that. So an outlier is just one that's lying out from all the rest. Okay? Alright, so the second page of this. Now this, I know these words at the top are pretty blurry, but they're not the super important part of this. I really wanted you to see the same things with bar graph. Again, I'm mainly worried about symmetrical, okay, and not symmetrical. I don't care if you know about this one, okay? Now, skewed right means it's pushed from the right. Skewed left means it's pushed from the left. Okay, that's not crazy. Alright, but those are kind of the main ones I wanted you to see. That it's not just dot plots. And here's a uniform if all the bars are about the same. Okay, now you're going to put this in your journal. Okay, and since I'm going to let you leave it stapled. And so I'm going to show you real quick where to put it so you can get some tape and pause the video. Alright, and we're going to go back and we're going to put this, I'll zoom out, hold on. Ooh, I zoomed in, sorry. It's hard to do. Okay, it's all it's going to let me zoom out right now. So I'm on page 161, so I'm going to move my paper up like this, see? 161, and I'll write that right here. So if you need to pause the video, get your book ready. Alright, so all I need for you to do to tape this down is I want you to put it right in the center, and we're going to get 2 little pieces of tape. Do not tape the front page, okay? Open it up and put a piece of tape at the top of the second page and a piece at the bottom. And now you've got that, okay, done in. So you can flip it. Okay? Alright, so pause the video and tape that in, and then you'll come back